One. All right. Hey, here we are there. Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending again on this Monday night here. I appreciate it. You taking time out of your busy day and busy night to do this. My name is Glenn Badger, and I'm from Thrive After 50, where I promote just bold, vibrant, and passionate living here. So that's what I encourage. That's what I see retirement a lot later days here as just being an opportunity more than anything there. So anyway, if you find this worthwhile, what I'm sharing tonight, be sure to go ahead and share it with someone else here that may benefit. Just want to catch up. I had a kind of a fun weekend. Went to Nashville, Tennessee here this weekend. My daughter was supposed to come in, but the plane got canceled. Ended up going anyway, and went to the Ryman Theater there. That theater used to be the Grand Ole Opry, I guess, in the past, and this thing like started in 1892 or so, and I've heard so much about it. It's just, a real historical building, and man, I'll tell you, going into this thing and seeing it was just fabulous. It was much better than I thought. I've never been to the Fillmore East in New York or anything like that, but this is kind of what I envision that to be. If you take a slice of orange, cut it in half and lay it down, the rind part is the only place you can walk. You come in one side, extreme side of that, you walk around and then you cut down the various rows to get to your seats there. So, and all the seats are church pews, or pews, I should say. Some of them are certainly custom made there or so, but it's such a cozy little thing. It only seats like 2,300 people or so. And we thought we were going to be in the nosebleed seats on the main floor. And heck, I bet you we were 150 feet away from the performer, who was Josh Ritter. I didn't even know who he was there. And man, what a nice concert that was. I really enjoyed that guy there. So that was such a treat. And then we went and saw some music other places as well. The Station Inn, which is a bluegrass venue in Nashville. And boy, that was a lot of fun too. We went on a Sunday night, and there must have been 15 musicians at one time just sitting around in a big circle with their banjos and ukuleles and mandolins and guitars and stuff, and just jamming together. There are a couple of guys just singing, the old horn dog sort of things there. Such fun. So just got back this morning. Well, anyway, I'd like to talk about tonight here. It's kind of one of my favorite subjects because it has to do with physical fitness here, of course, but it's aging, what to expect and how to counteract it. And boy, that, as you might guess, the information involved here is just so incredibly deep and stuff. And I'm going to try to keep it so that it doesn't get too boring or too crazy here for you guys here. But I think it's such an important topic to talk about, because despite everything we hear, do, and say, a lot of us still are not getting out and moving. And moving is just so incredibly important to keeping ourselves young and vital and full of energy. And wow, I work with people on a daily basis as a personal trainer here, and I live in a retirement village, so I see a lot of them that, the things I take for granted, like just being able to straighten my legs, lock them in place there straight. A lot of people can't even do something like that. And it's really given me an aware and appreciation as to how far some people have to go and how far some people have declined over time. And I want to help those people and really do what I can, but it still's up to that individual. Despite what I want to do or push, it's still going to be up to the individual, just as it will be with you too. So anyway, poet Max Ehrmann described the process of aging as gracefully surrendering the things of youth. I don't know about it being graceful. Some of those things happen rather quick there. For many people, it's a gradual loss of the ability to take part in activities that seem so common or so effortlessly in the past. That can be something as simple as bending down and tying your shoes, to putting the groceries way up on the upper shelf, picking up a bag at the airport in the plane and putting it in the overhead compartment, stepping in and out of the shower. It's just, there are so many aspects of daily life that we just don't think about, that people are losing their mobility here. So anyway, that's kind of what I want to talk about tonight. There's basically three major ways of gauging aging. There's the chronological, okay, how old are you? Okay, well, 60, 70, whatever, that's how many revolutions you made around the sun. Chronologically, that's how old you are. There's the biological aspect of aging. How are you internally? How are your organs and muscles and things like that doing? And then the last one, which I find to be incredibly important, is the functional, in which I was just talking about here. How functional are you? How functional can you be? What can you still do? Do you still have strength? Do you have the mental capacity? Do you have the energy? Do you still look young? Are you aging just prematurely and really going downhill because of lack of movement here? And all of us are familiar with the parade of stuff, I'll call it, just the miracle drugs that are going to keep you young. Take this pill, take that pill, eat this food, do that sort of thing. I mean, so many of these things, particularly the pills there, they just aren't successful in doing what they said they will do, besides taking a lot of your money, because they just ignore a lot of some of the most essential things, which is that movement and how you eat combined together with that. So there's just so many aspects of aging that we have to be aware of, and what things we have to do to take care of ourselves here. And I hope to talk about a lot of that there, a lot of stuff here tonight. So aging is a complex interaction of lifestyle, environment, and genetics. And I think the most important part of that is our lifestyle. Again, movement, how we eat, how we fuel our bodies, so on and so forth. Genetics, environment, well, environment can be incredibly important too, depending on where you're living. I mean, if you're living in the shadows of Chernobyl, or, something like that, where you have unclean water or food that isn't readily available. I mean, environment can have a drastic effect on your physical well-being here. Genetics are certainly important, or can be important, but I think a person's genes determine what might be, but lifestyle choices determine what a person actually becomes. Okay, and I'll read that again. A person's genes determine what might be, but lifestyle choices determine what the person actually becomes. That is just so important to keep in mind. A lot of us like to blame it on genetics, or that we were screwed here, or didn't get the genes we were supposed to, that someone else had to have, but I think that's a cop-out myself there. Currently, there's more than 35 million older adults living in America. That's 12.5% of the population. By the year 2050, they expect that to double, where there's going to be 70 million people 65 and older, and it's going to represent 25% of the population. So these issues we're talking about are paramount to everybody who is aging here. I mean, I don't care if you're 40 right now, or 30 or 20. I mean, it's just something that I believe should be a lifestyle, be incorporated in your lifestyle. And if you have by chance hit those later years where you're retiring or something, this should be your new job. This should be your new daily job, is committing yourself to daily movement in some way, okay? And I want you to challenge yourself too. That's really important to challenge yourself. According to the AARP, only 39% of older people rated their health as excellent or very good. And 85% of older adults suffer at least one chronic health condition. 85%. And a lot of that could be eliminated just by healthier living and habits. there, absolutely. Cancer, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, arthritis, emphysema. These are all examples of things that they're slow to begin, but they build up, and it's your movement, your habits, your eating style, all that determines as to whether those are going to emerge later in your life when you're 40, 60, 80, or never at all, depending on what you do there. I read, I think that even when you're 20 in today's environment, the coronary challenges begin, or at least there's signs of that. So yeah, it's age dependent to a large extent, but like I said, it starts slow, and the challenge is just to keep ourselves active and on top of things there. So that's really, really important. Okay, I'm going to talk about 3 basic systems of general aging. Like I said, there's so many of them, but I'm going to just talk about the nervous system, the musculoskeletal system, and the cardiovascular. I think these 3 are the most important. And the nervous system, boy, that is just responsible for the initiation and control of all human movement, and multiple regulatory functions of the human body. I mean, wow, I don't, at least I didn't when I was younger, think about how important the nervous system is. But it sure comes in handy when you touch a hot stove or hurt yourself and experience pain, so on and so forth. But any muscle movement is stimulated by your nerves, and there's just a lot of things that as we get older, things happen to our nervous system, and some of them are out of our control. They're just going to happen. Some of them, and most of them, we can defer how quickly these things happen to us. Okay, for example, your brain decreases, MRIs show that 10 to 15% decrease in brain matter with age. The brain gets smaller, okay? Did you know that? Wow. We lose many neurons in our brain, the connecting to each other. We lose a decrease in the brain weight. The thinning of the dendritic branches, that go from one neuron to the next there, that communicate and release the hormones to speak to the next neuron there. That slows down. There isn't as many connections there anymore. And therefore, messages and impulses don't travel as quickly. That's one of the drawbacks of getting older there. So communication travels at a slower rate there. And our neurotransmitters, again, that's how those neurons speak to each other. It's almost instantaneous, but that also slows down and isn't as prevalent there with age. Then there's sensory changes that happen. I think we're all familiar with vision, hearing, and proprioception, which means, just our knowledge of where the position and movement of our body, where we're at here. You touch your finger to your nose there, or, you might trip over something because you didn't lift your foot up high enough. It's just that that determination, that feel for where things are at, that declines as well. But the vision thing there is our visual acuity, being able to distinguish something really sharp, very well. Our peripheral vision off to the side here declines. Our contrast sensitivity declines, as well as our depth perception. And those things can come into big play here, especially if you're out for a walk or something, you have to step over something, and again, you trip on it or so because you don't have that right depth perception. I'm sure all of you have noticed, especially if you're older here, their inability to see well in dark environments. That declines with time. I know just over this weekend, I was lighting up my phone here to look at the menu here and stuff. Things that I could see in the past, I can't do that anymore or see that. Navigating around obstacles. Again, that's kind of that proprioception. I mean, say walk around a chair or something. How many times have you stubbed your toe hitting that chair there? And then also our balance and mobility there overall is affected too. And then our hearing, you know, oh boy, you know, I have a problem hearing high-pitched noises. That's pretty common for old age. My partner thinks I have selective hearing. And at times I must admit I do. But one of the biggest challenges I find that I have is when I'm in a busy place there, say a restaurant or so, and the background noise or the music's playing on, or it's just the echo of the sound off the ceiling and floor there. If someone's trying to talk to me across the table there, I have a very difficult time not being distracted by that sound. And that even happens to me in a car there. If my car window was down a bit, and you can hear that rush of the breeze of the air, you know, and the outside noises and stuff. That to me is very distracting too. And it just draws me away from what I might be wanting to focus on. Anyway, it's a challenge. It's not that I can't do it. It's just that it's a real challenge there for myself there. So, all right, let's see. Behavioral changes, again, our response speed, that slows down. For example, think of being at the airport when the luggage is come out on the turnstile here. You know, you ever notice how some people, I mean, you just take a look at all of the actions that are involved in it. You've got to recognize your package, you've got to read a label, you've got to bend over, you've got to pull this thing out, and you got to do it in a certain amount of time here. And that response speed can really be a challenge for some people there. And I know I have helped older people at times grab something because they can't, they don't have the ability or the muscle strength to do that. Or, you know, they say, there goes my bag, and, you know, you help them out grabbing it, something, you know, like that. You know, so those are changes in response speed that happens. There's changes in processing information with aging, pertaining to attention, learning, and memory and intelligence. I know that can be a problem for too, especially with people that have complexity involved in what you're doing. You know, think of an activity. I guess I think of exercising or so. I mean, it might be easy for them just to do a barbell raise or something, but if they have to bend down, pick it up, turn their arms a certain way, and push it up, down, and then, you know, come back down, that's a little more complicated, and you have to be patient to show people that. So, and kind of like another one is the loss of attention and distraction, which I talked about earlier. And then there's short-term memory lapses here too. People actually have better short-term memory than they do long-term. Now, it's interesting. My father had Alzheimer's, and actually diffuse Lewy body disease, which is a combination of many different things. But as he got in his later life in that, I found that he actually had better long-term memory. But overall, your short-term memory is better than your long-term. Okay, so, you know, what is the impact of physical activity? Well, as you're going to find out here tonight, and basically physical activity and movement helps everything. It absolutely helps us everything. It increases the dendrite connections. It increases the hormonal transmitting, between those dendritic those neurons there. It helps with the sparing of age-related decline. It helps with keeping that blood flowing there and our response speed. It helps with our behavioral speed and understanding and our cognitive abilities. There's indications that it might even help with some of the visual and hearing things too. A lot of this stuff is still out, hasn't been fully 100% determined, but it's indications show that pretty much it helps everything. It increase that blood flow, so reduce your risk for hypertension. And it's also been shown that it may prevent dementia, or help prevent dementia and slow the progress of Alzheimer's disease. And for many of us, that's a real fear. That's a real fear. I know my ex-wife always said that, you know, she's gonna, physically I'll be fine, but I'm gonna lose my mind and not know where I'm at, you know, or something like that. Anyway, that's enough of that. Training programs that emphasize the ability to balance and navigate within one's own environment may produces great results, you know, and you got to add strength to that too, particularly for the bones, you know, which will transition right now into the musculoskeletal system here, you know, which is made of your skeletal muscles, bones, and joints that work to produce movement here. And there are some things that go on as we age there, some of the effects of aging. Fat and connective tissue replaces muscle mass as it declines with age. Okay, and that stuff doesn't stretch. It doesn't, you know, you can't reach as far with connective tissue and fat there. You know, the connective tissue in particular. Peak muscle fiber, I didn't know this, actually occurs around the age of 20 for sedentary individuals. And then it begins to decline after that. But for physically active adults, peak muscle mass occurs all the way up to the age of 60, and then it starts declining after that. And I still think that you can combat that to a large extent. Regardless of, it says that regardless of the activity level, it appears that number of muscle fibers decrease with age. So yeah, it may be a long-term battle, but you can certainly prolong that battle and still feel good and still have your mobility and muscle mass and stuff. I see people in their 90s where I'm at right now, still exercising and moving, you know. Some of them are incredible. I mean, I got one guy there that brags about his 30-inch waist, you know, so. And he looks at it. I mean, he's in there a lot each week doing something there. And some of these guys are just, you know, go-getters, no doubt about it there. They're doing it a lot, though. They're doing it 5, 6, 7 days a week. So, and if not at the wellness center, they're doing it at home. And the musculoskeletal system, in the muscles, you know, we have two type of muscles. There's slow twitch and fast twitch. The slow twitch is kind of your aerobic muscles that hold up for a long time, that you can run long distance with. Your fast twitch are the ones that your red muscles that you use in force production. They can really give you a lot of force, but they have a much shorter lifespan before they wear out. So that's really important. But things like jumping, sprinting, you know, swimming as hard as you can, something like that, anything that you're really putting out full effort, the ratio of those starts declining. The ratio of type 2 fibers in particular, those ones that are the force producing muscles, those start declining in ratio to the type 1 anaerobic ones there, or yeah. So anyway, that's one of the effects too of aging there. Bone mass peaks around 30 years and then starts gradually declining. So again, that's just one of those things that we got to battle. And again, exercise, particularly if you're a woman, you have osteoporosis to deal with. That is, you know, thinning and weakening of the bones there. Exercise can offset that and help that considerably. Another effect on our bones and muscles is the shortening of tendons and ligaments, reducing our range of motion of our joints by up to 25%. And I'll tell you, that kind of goes back to that, you know, being able to straighten your leg or just stretch and reach as far. That mobility, which is something I think is just incredibly important. And then we also have poor core stability, particularly in our core. If we don't keep our core up, we're going to lose our ability to balance and perform motions and lose our center of gravity. I see so many people that are hunched over like this, and that throws off their entire sense of balance there as well. In fact, you see a lot of people down like this just looking at their cell phone all the time. That's going to affect their neck there as well over time. That's another subject there. So weakness and stiffness of the joints and hips and legs reduces our ability. Weakness in our elbows and shoulders might affect our ability to, like I said, put away groceries, bend down, tie your shoes, to reach up, grab things, get up on a ladder, different things like that. With the ladder, you should be really careful of all the time anyway here. So again, physical activity can increase muscle mass, strength, and power, and all those things. It can affect our health and functional ability of our skeletal muscle. And it can increase our bone mass with physical activity, particularly weight-bearing stuff. Weight-bearing is really, resistance training is really, really important to building up your bone mass there. So do not leave that out of your exercise, what you're doing. Even doing push-ups or pull-ups or anything that you can do there. Force yourself, strain yourself to the most you can on those things. Last one I'm going to talk about quickly before we call it a night here is just going to be the cardiovascular, the heart and the lungs, the circulation there. There's actually not as many age-related changes that go on there in that particular area. There is a normal enlargement of the heart due to an increase in cardiac muscle cells there. That's pretty much normal. The large arteries thicken, widen, and lengthen, become stiff with age, forcing the heart to work harder. So that is an issue there. So that is some strain there. Now the little arterioles, the arteries that as they get really, really small and down near cell size, they don't experience the same changes. Rather, there's a reduction in ability to dilate, widen, constrict, and narrow, which affects your blood flow at the cellular level there. So that is important when it comes to exercise there, to try to move that blood, keep those things wide open, keep that blood flowing there as much as possible. Okay, and the respiratory system, part of the respiratory system that I think is really important is the intercostal and diaphragm muscles along the side there. I don't know if you ever notice sometimes when you get strained and you take a deep breath, you can just feel that tightness and stuff in here, in your rib cage. That's those intercostal muscles and that are just tightening up there, and the diaphragm muscles there makes it tough to take a deep breath there, and that definitely has effect on your ability to exercise there. Those intercostal muscles weaken with age, and it leads to that stiffness there, which really affects your ability to exercise and breathe deeply if you want when needed there. So again, the effect of physical activity on fitness, it's well known that physical activity preserves cardiorespiratory fitness. I think we all know how it plays in coronary heart disease there. It reduces the risk, and it leads to a reduction in the risk of heart disease. So those are some of the effects. Like I said, the amount of information on there is just goes on and on and on there, and it's kind of tough to deliver this to someone without putting someone to sleep there at times. But I guess what I really want you to know is that there's a lot of things that will happen to us if we don't take care of our bodies. And that's the most important message I have to share with you tonight, is that you've got to move. You've got to move. You got to take care of yourself. You got to watch what you put in your body to feed it there. And we didn't even touch upon that tonight, really. But the fuel that you put in your body is just so incredibly important there. Just like you wouldn't put sugar in your gas tank of your car or something like that. So, watch what you consume, move more, do some cardio, get that cardio in those fast walks, swim if you can, get in exercise classes, join a fitness center, get out for walks on a regular basis, walk fast, time yourself so that you get better. I mean, do whatever you can there. And resistance exercises, Yeah, you can go to a gym and get some barbells or take them home or things like that. But there's so many things you can do with with your body weight. You know, it can be squats, it can be push-ups, it can be just a lot of different stretching and things like that, which are again is so important. You can go to a playground and crawl around on some of the playground uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Just the different activities there. You know, the bars, climb the bars, and different things like that. So anyway, I'm going to wrap things up here. I always have a quote here at the end, and I particularly like this one here. Those who think they have no time for bodily exercise will sooner or later have to find time for illness. And that kind of coordinates exactly what I say, and I'll read that again. Those who think they have no time for bodily exercise will sooner or later have to find time for illness. And that's by Edward Stanley, and that is just so true. Well, anyway, thank you for taking time out to be on this live call here. I appreciate it. I wish you know, again, if you find someone you think might benefit from this, go ahead and share it with them. Thank you for tuning in, and have a great Monday night. Bye-bye. Glenn signing out.